Welcome to the review that no one asked for. Today we're going to talk about Batman the Caped Crusader. After a family tragedy, socialite Bruce Wayne transforms into the Batman, where his crusade for justice spawns unforeseen ramifications. The show has had a rocky start from the beginning. It was canceled in 2022 by HBO Max. And for a long time, all we had to go off of for the show was this image right here. And we were all collectively like, oh, damn, that actually looked kind of cool. I wish I could see that. And we're all bummed. And then Amazon swooped in, bought the rights to it, and released it all at once. And I'm actually really glad they did. This show is very much a spiritual successor to Batman the Animated Series. The setting is similar. It is produced by Bruce Timm, who was, one of the big chiefs back in the 90s for Batman the Animated Series. But along with him is J.J. Abrams and Matt Reeves, who I feel know what they're doing. But this show definitely feels like it was made for Batman the Animated Series fans. It feels very much heavily inspired by, but also trying to tiptoe around not just blatantly doing it. Visually, it's pretty close. It has those same vibes. The way that they use shadows was very eye-popping to me. A lot of characters were blocked by shadows for like 70% of their face. Just the way they use shadows compared to something like the Harley Quinn show. So that brought some darkness to the screen. They didn't go full construction paper dark. The intro is also in black and white. And again, the music is cool. I did left it on every time. I didn't skip it because it's just cool. The music as a whole isn't as iconic, but again, it has that flavor to it. Batman himself, I feel like the first thing that you see are, the ears on the cowl, which I wasn't a huge fan of when I saw that image that we were talking about. But here, it doesn't get in the way. It definitely feels like a way to separate themselves from Batman the Animated Series, which is having a piece of Batman being so extra, I feel like. Because the suit itself also feels like an homage. We've seen those colors before, but it very much feels like it's trying to do something different. There's something also kind of classic about it and nostalgic. I did get used to the goofy pointy ears eventually. Hamish Linklater voices Batman, and I felt like he was trying to sound like Kevin Conroy, he's my Batman. I mean, rest in peace. He's the best Batman by far. And it's not even because of the animated series, it's more because of the Arkham series for me. Yeah, it just sounded a little bit too much like he was trying to sound like Conroy, but not really, but kinda.
And that's the problem. Penguin was keeping Thorne's mob in check by taking down her operation in one fell swoop.
You've just given another piece of the city to Rupert Thorne.
I don't have a problem with him being casted. I just wish he would try to do something a little bit different. I did get used to it. It did sound like what Batman would sound, but to me, in my head, always and forever, Batman sounds like Kevin Conroy. But I've always said this, as much as I love Batman, the best part of Batman are the villains. And I think they did a nice job of not just blowing their load in the first season, like just dumping all the villains they can just for like fanfare. There is a Penguina, which that's what the internet has been yelling about. And I know, they bitch about gender bending all the time, but in this case, maybe because I know the history of it being canned and it almost not happening, that made me think of it like its own separated, self-contained little universe where anything goes, so I didn't really care. My thing with this is when you do stuff like this, does it get in the way of the story? And here, to me, the Penguin being a Penguina doesn't take anything away from the story. It actually adds to it. They add a different dynamic. They brought in two of her kids, so we have that dynamic, and they use that way to show us how much of a bitch she is and how cold she is and how evil she is. So it was really a different take on the Penguin, but it was different and it added something and it added a new dynamic and a new perspective that I liked. I am one of those that gets kind of annoyed when the character isn't represented how I remember them. But for me, when I get most annoyed is when we've never seen them before in that adaptation. So in this case, we've seen a bunch of penguins. And she doesn't take anything away from any of those old penguins. Is she the best penguin? No, she's the most different penguin. She's a pretty interesting penguin. But because, like I said, she adds something new. It was cool. I was tripping over her voice. I do love Minnie Driver. She's cool. She's awesome. I just wish that the voice was a bit nastier. She was too lovely. I felt like she needed to sound like she smoked a couple 100,000 cigarettes in her lifetime. She was just too clean and crispy, in my opinion, too elegant. I wanted her to be a little bit more nasty.
The little fink is spilling it to Gordon right now.
And that goes like for the whole series. I feel like the characters were missing a little bit more 90s cartooniness in the voices. Only one, which was Bullock, who played by John DiMaggio. And I mean, come on, he's the GOAT. He sounds super cartoony, but that's what I wanted from that character. There's certain characters where I wanted them to be extra. And the Penguina is definitely one I wanted to be extra. Batman doesn't have to be extra. There's certain characters where you're like, you have to be a little bit extra. And they weren't. But this doesn't take away from any of the other Penguins. So I wasn't tripping. On the other hand, an Asian Harley Quinn, what the fuck? It did shook me a little bit when I saw this character and it was like, oh, that's Harley Quinn. I was like, oh, okay. My main issue with Harley, because we also have the flip side of what I was saying, I didn't like the character. She wasn't giving me Harley vibes at all. I did like the Dr. Heckle and Mr. Hyde dynamic they had. Like Dr. Harley Quinn were super bubbly and nice. And then they would go to Harley Quinn and she's super serious. They went opposite with it. I would have liked her to be Harley Quinn, but even more evil and bubbly than the personality we see as Dr. Harley Quinn. Just crazy, man. This Harley Quinn was just way too chill. It was very weird to me. Like you go from hiya pudding to, oh, you're very interesting, Batman. She didn't bring the vibes. Like, yeah, I'll go for the black and yellow. Okay, that's cool, right? That's different. The change in the character was too drastic, this is the opposite of what I was talking about with the Penguina. Like, you turned right way too hard. It jolts you because you're expecting her to be all crazy. And she's just like, I got you, Batman. No, that's not who the fuck it is. She's also Jokerless. So she was just Harley Quinn. And we never really got an explanation as to how she got to do that. So she's just Harley Quinn out of the blue. I did feel like overall the show was missing a little bit of that, which was it has less focus on the villains, on why they're doing what they're doing. That's what the animated series did so brilliantly. Each episode, they show you, it could be in the beginning of the episode, how the villain's perspective is used to create like a reason for what they're doing. And here, some of them are just doing stuff and you don't get a reason as to why they're doing that. Now, Harley's one of those. Not all of them. There is one character here where they do kind of give you its arc in that whole episode. The fighting was also very cool. It felt very nostalgic. And also, like in the animated series, they bring guns back. Pretty cool to see a cartoon. It's kind of refreshing to see like a Batman cartoon with villains shooting guns. Like there's a couple cop shootouts, which is very cool. But yeah, so the gist of it is that it's pretty young Batman. I would say rookie Batman, year one Batman, because even in the streets of Gotham, he's still a rumor. Not everybody's seen him. He's like a ghost tale, right? So a lot of the series is showing how the public is going to receive Batman because he starts to poke his head out with his giant ears more and more and more. So it's very much the early days of Batman. You have the cops trying to chase him because they don't know his intentions. Is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? So there's that dynamic going on. They also do each episode is its own case thing. And I also felt like they lean in a lot in some of the detective work, which was really cool. It keeps you engaging, and there's this one particular episode where you're like trying to figure out who and how and why the hell stuff is going on. So it's not just like, hey, I'm Batman, let's fight. It's very much like Batman trying to figure out who the hell's this, what's going on with this. There's some detective work. There's also a couple episodes that feature some supernatural themes, which took me off guard for a little bit. I thought it was going to be like, oh, it's a guy doing special effects. But no, it was actually supernatural characters. So again, that offers something different that I liked. Of course, we get the Pearl origins, but I did like how they did it here. It focused more on how that event affect Bruce psychologically more than anything, instead of just like Pearl's break. They didn't do that. Thank God they didn't show the Pearls breaking, but it wasn't just like Pearls shattering and I'm mad and I'm Batman now. It was more like him still in this early stage of trying to be Batman. How is that still affecting him? And how is that motivating him to go out every night and be Batman? It feels very dramatic as well. There's a lot of stuff going on. They're not bad episodes in the bunch at all, I don't feel like. And I really don't understand why HBO Max canned it. I guess because back then they just loved to make the wrong decision, and that's the wrong decision to have canned this. So maybe that's why. I just don't understand. How do you can this but have 2 seasons of Velma? Explain that to me, HBO Max. So yeah, I'm very glad Amazon picked it up. They have already renewed it, so I'm very curious to see what that means. I don't know how that works. Do they just inherit the whole team? Do you just everybody else comes on board? I don't know how TV or shows work. I'm just a stupido that sits in front of the TV, watches it, and then sits in front of the camera and talks about it. But I am curious to see what comes next, and I'm also curious to see your thoughts on Batman Caped Crusader. Let me know what you think down in the comments down below. Thank you guys for watching. Remember to always and forever, you do you. Are you Batman?